Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Remko Rinkema, and you are watching Run It Back, the show in which we watch old school poker action. And today, I am joined by Phil Galfond to watch some old school, high stakes poker action. We're doing all the seasons that Phil was on: season 4, season 6, and season 7. We've cut out every single hand you played, and we're going to dive into it. We're going to just see how it was, any memories that pop up into your mind. But first and foremost, it's been a crazy year. I hope you're holding up well. How are things going?
Things are good. I don't have a challenge at the moment, so I'm spending some more time with family and on the business. But life is good. Can't complain.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I mean, this is kind of like the highlight of my week every week. Not only because I get to talk into a microphone, but also because I get to watch high stakes poker again and again and again. I just can never get sick of this, especially the old school action. As you rock up with about a gallon of water for your first ever appearance, shaking the hand of Jamie Gold. I think. Hold on. I want to hear this first interaction. I'm not sure if you remember this, but it's pretty funny.
I do remember it well, Remko.
I'm gonna go back just a second here. Let's listen in.
Phil, you have 200 from me.
I'm Jamie.
I'm Phil.
Nice to meet you.
It's another Phil. What's your name?
You're a little
Phil.
sweaty. Oh, another Phil already.
You're not Net Phil.
No,
Net
no.
Phil. You're Phil.
Yeah, it's probably like
Sweaty Phil.
online genius.
Oh my
That's
God,
my guess.
Clay.
Are you serious?
Jamie said you're really sweaty.
Yeah, you call him Sweaty Phil.
Let's try one.
Jamie knows how to ingratiate himself to people right away.
Put the 24. I showed
Yeah,
him.
Brandon, Phil, just show you we don't playing.
No, I mean,
So I re-straddle
All right, good to know.
because I lost the
Oh,
last
yeah.
spot.
Sorry.
All right, Sweaty Phil. How long has that moniker followed you around?
It pops up every once in a while, and obviously I was very nervous to be on the show, but I am generally sweaty, so it's appropriate.
I mean, let's just start at the very beginning here. How did you get a seat on season 4 of High Stakes Poker? Of course, clearly this was when the online names hadn't necessarily, found their roots into the foundation of what poker is and what it became. This is really when that first started to change. So how did you get a seat?
Honestly, I don't remember super well. I want to say that Tom Dwan recommended me to Maury because I know that they were friendly, and he introduced me to him at some point, but I honestly don't remember exactly how it happened. That's my guess.
Huh. Interesting. So you said you were a bit nervous. So what is it like walking into this room? It's a TV set, in case people don't know. There's cameras all around. And then you sit down with these people that, you're clearly not intimidated by from a poker perspective, but these people are very experienced in the format and playing under bright lights.
Yeah, at this point I was playing, these stakes online, which are extremely tough games. So I wasn't necessarily nervous from that perspective, but I mean, I watched every season of High Stakes Poker and had seen all of these people on TV many, many times and had never met any of them, I think. I think I'd met Daniel Negreanu once. He definitely didn't remember me. I met him at a tournament. And so, I was starstruck, definitely. And nervous to play on TV, worried about making mistakes and stuff like that. So. Yeah, I was especially sweaty. I'm normally Sweaty Phil. I was especially Sweaty Phil when I joined High Stakes Poker.
It's just a funny little thing looking back on it now, and how much has changed over time. And we even see you sort of grow up on the show. You weren't on season 5, but you were on season 6 and 7. And by that time, of course, you were a regular, especially in this scene. And there was no more shaking hands to introduce yourself. For the people in the chat, we are joined by Phil Galfond today to watch High Stakes Poker. If you guys have any questions for Phil, please send them into the chat. We are live in 4 places on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, and on the High Stakes Poker YouTube channel, which is a special little feature that we have. We have a special channel for High Stakes Poker content only. So if that's all you care about, that's a good place for you to go and check out. So yeah, please keep those questions coming. I'll try to get them in as I can. And let's see if we can turn this into a gem of a show, because we got some action here. Phil, do you remember this hand?
No, not at all, actually. I don't remember many of the hands from this long ago.
So we're looking at queens here. Let's listen to what Gabe has to say.
Eli, we'll chop with you, buddy.
It's okay.
Well, wait, I haven't called. All right, if it's okay, I call now. 65, right? Yeah. We still chop with you.
Sammy will chop with a Jack 5 of clubs.
Why not? The other Phil.
I don't want you to beat me either.
Yeah, we're after Phil. The other Phil, not you, Phil.
Flop comes 8, king,
Checking
6.
it right.
3 diamonds. Bad move to check here.
10 of clubs on the turn.
Let's see if Sammy tries to take it away.
It's really hard to be 100% equity on this board with queens.
Yeah.
If Phil Galfond has been watching this game, he'll realize that 16,000 is not a big bet relative to the action that's been going on here. And I would think he would at least call here on the turn. But he's not going to because he's playing semi-normal poker.
So what do we see here? Is this just you knowing that there's going to be a lot of great spots in this game, that there's no need to tangle here with the queens?
No, I mean, I'm sure I thought if I'm beat, I'm dead. And like, I know that Sammy would like value bet some king X for, you know, value protection that he shouldn't. So he's betting a lot of those. And I figured if I was not beat, he would have a lot of outs. Turns out he had 0. And then I also had Ellie behind me to worry about. So I don't know. I don't mind that play, facing a big bet in a 3-way pot.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting also to play in a lineup like this, and
yeah, for sure.
And were you coming into this game thinking, okay, I'm just gonna steamroll, clean up, and take home $500,000?
No, not necessarily. I mean, I felt I was a better player. I probably had more confidence than I should have. I thought I'd be a big favorite in the game. I think probably I was, but not as much as I thought I would be. And yeah, I mean, they just, you know, they play a lot of hands and they love to put money in. And so you can make money in this game by just, you know, playing a reasonable, basic strategy, honestly.
Right. So for many players that I've had on this show that were on high stakes poker, they all say the same thing. My life has not been the same since I was on high stakes poker. You know, walking into poker rooms, at the airport, just running into people and basically becoming a poker celebrity, if you will. Did you notice a change from being on the show?
Honestly, I didn't, but it's because I don't leave my house. I felt like the biggest change in me being recognized was, I don't recall what, the year that Duhamel won the main event, I went deep and there was like day 5 or something, I was featured throughout the day. I think that was when a lot more people knew who I was.
Wow.
But I didn't really notice a difference from this.
That's kind of interesting though, because Duhamel won way after this was taped. There's quite a bit of time in between.
Yeah.
Would you say that this was at the peak of your online grinding powers back when this was being filmed? Was it oh my God, Clay Aiken in his peak form compared to the opposition?
No, I don't. Well, compared to the opposition online, no. I was. I think I got better a few years later compared to the opposition. I felt like here I was, you know, one of many who reached the nosebleeds, but not any better or like not a standout by any means among those.
So what were you doing back then to get better? Because we all know now that, and I almost don't even want to say the word on the show, but you know, GTO is all the jazz, and people are studying using the artificial intelligence, and it almost feels like we're in the Matrix right now. But back then, what were you doing yourself outside of the content you were making, the friends you had, and the people you had to talk to? What were the methods to get better?
Almost nothing. I felt that I learned the most from like my friends, sharing hand histories and talking about them, and then watching training videos, but that's really kind of all we had. There were some tools. I guess there was Cardinals EV. I never used that. And then there were, you know, tools for tournaments, but for cash games, no, there was nothing really. A lot of my play, a lot of it was hand history review, talking with friends, and then looking at stats of my opponents and figuring out what to do against that in Hold'em Manager or Poker Tracker.
Is there a case to be made to say that it used to take more talent and raw intelligence to become a top player, where now if you are a good studier with great discipline, you can reach the top?
I don't think so. At the top. I think it... I mean, first of all, competition's gotten tougher. So if anything, you could say, you know, it requires more skill, intelligence to be at the top today. There were, if you were not creative and intelligent, it was very hard to make it to the top back then, because there was no other way to learn, really. No great way to learn. But I think now, I think you still need those skills, the same skills, really. You know, being whatever types of intelligence are important, you know, logic and psychology and you know, basic math, like those kind of intelligences are still just as important. You also have to work. Right. But I don't think that if you just, you know, pick an average person and make them the hardest studier in poker, I don't think they reach the top.
Quick little no, sorry, go ahead.
No, I think that's common kind of misconception. And some people disagree with me, even, you know, my peers, but I just think you need more than studying. Studying is not sufficient, and you can't get it all from a solver.
For the people that are watching on Facebook, please know that we're having connectivity issues with Facebook. I know Facebook was down earlier today, and so were WhatsApp and Instagram. And it seems as though the signal is not coming through all the way on Facebook. So if you can see this or hear this, go on over to us on YouTube, PokerGO YouTube channel. We are live there as well as on Twitch, and there's no issues there at all. So thank you guys all so much for tuning in across the board. I see some questions coming in on YouTube and Twitch. We'll get to those. People are wondering if you're a billionaire. Well, clearly he's a billionaire. That's just, you know, without question. This guy has been playing for so many years, so we don't even have to ask. Aryan is asking if I've gotten in touch with Sammy yet to get him on the show. I have not, but I would say it's a greater than 50% chance that I'll get Sammy Farah on the show at some point. I have some connections, so we're going to try to make it work. That would be incredible. And there's, as I was saying to Phil earlier before we started the show, I tried to grab as many Phil Galfond hands for this show, but I couldn't fill an entire 90 minutes with it. Well, with Sammy Farah, I could fill probably 4 hours, because he was basically involved in every single major pot on this show. Please keep those questions coming for you guys in the chat. I will try to weave them into this show. And a question from B coming in. Phil, what's the biggest game you've ever played in, and was it on TV?
The biggest game I ever played in was a 2,000, 4,000 no limit. It was not on TV. Or I guess you could say the biggest game I played in was $1 million one drop tournament, and that was I don't think I made the TV.
$1 million one drop, of course. Such a unique event, big one for one drop. Hosted once every 2 years. Triton is now doing something of their own. As far as your own game, as we are watching hands that you're not involved in, it gives us some time to catch up over some other stuff. Your challenges, have they helped you a lot with, you know, getting sharper, getting back to the top, and fully understanding what it takes right now to be at the top? And does it motivate you even more to keep playing high stakes yourself?
Yes, all around. I think with the disclaimer that just in PLO, I have not played No Limit Hold'em seriously in over a decade, and so I'm not near the top, not remotely close to the top in No Limit Hold'em. But in PLO, I feel near the top after having been not near the top for a few years, having not played, and so the challenges were really good motivation. And I love it. I thought for a while that I would, because, you know, before I kind of stopped playing full time to work on the business, solvers had been around for a while in Hold'em, not in PLO. They were just kind of becoming available in PLO, and I'd never used them. And I worried, kind of like what you talked about, that, you know, the skills that I had that set me apart would not be as relevant going forward. And so I had already kind of felt like maybe I was not going to stay towards the top in poker because I've never been a very strong studier, and it seemed like that's what it really took. Then I took, several years off to work on the business. And honestly, I thought I would never play very high level poker again. And that was kind of sad for me because it's a big part of who I am in my adult life, and I really enjoy it. So getting back to poker and the challenges and kind of showing myself that the post solver era is not what I feared it would be. And that I could still hang it's made me very happy. So yeah, I want to keep getting back out there.
But has the ship sailed on your No Limit Hold'em hopes and dreams?
I don't think so. I think it'll take me longer, certainly, to catch up, than it did for PLO. But I was surprised how quickly I could catch back up in PLO, and I think that I could do the same in No Limit with proper motivation. But I don't really know. I don't have No Limit. I mean, I'm sure I could get No Limit action. But yeah, there hasn't been the right opportunity, the right challenge for me yet at No Limit. So
if we're gauging No Limit skill by stakes, where would you put yourself right now as far as what you could beat online?
Oh, wow. I'd be totally guessing. I mean, I'm going to speak in terms of heads up, because I think 6-max, I'd be toast everywhere. just don't know what, I mean, yeah. Heads up, I think probably something like 200 NL. I don't know. I mean, I think that with a month, maybe, yeah, no, probably with a month or two of playing, then maybe 500 NL. But yeah, no, I certainly nothing near where I play PLO.
So for the people in the chat who are not feeling too confident about their own games, Phil Galfond just said that he can basically only beat 1-2. So that's where we're at. The South Point Nightly is where you can find me. That's sort of my level. That's where I'm at, and I'm not ashamed of that. I love the game. I'm just totally okay with sucking. We have more questions coming in, and Coriolan2 on YouTube sent us a $2 super chat, which I really appreciate. I appreciate it a lot. And he has a very, very random question that I would have never even drawn up myself. He says, Phil, do you ever play Nintendo 64?
I did back when Nintendo 64 was new a lot, but no, not in a very long time.
No video games at all in your routine?
No, I used to play video games all the time until I started playing poker, and then I stopped playing video games.
So was there anything, like people love to say, okay, yeah, I used to be really good at Magic before I found poker, or like I was like a pro at some video game. Were you like good at anything specific?
Not elite at anything. My video game claim to fame was there was remember back when there were Blockbusters.
Oh yeah.
They had these video game competitions where you would go in and play 3 different games, and then there would be a winner for each store. And then anyways, I won for my store. This was back on Sega Genesis. And I was, I think 9 or 10. And then then you go to regionals and you play NBA Jam against like in a just like tournament bracket kind of. And I got crushed by an 18-year-old in round 1. So that was it for me.
You guys in the chat, let me know what your video game claim to fame was. I once had the fastest time on a Need for Speed track online when online Need for Speed first became a thing on a lab called Market Street. That was my first and only cool thing that I did online. Nerfy is asking on the YouTube chat, is this really live? Shout me out. Well, there you go. That's your shout out. Appreciate you guys all tuning in. We are live indeed. If you have any questions, please let us know. People are switching between our broadcast and Daniel Negreanu, who's streaming on WSP.com. Definitely an honor. Daniel is a very entertaining streamer. Let's see. Hanken is asking an interesting question. He says, which players did you have the most respect for as far as old school players when you were first coming up, as a young kid from the online streets?
So there's I don't know if, I guess they do count. So definitely the top two, kind of by a mile, were Patrick Antonius and Phil Ivey, in my view. And then I feel like I had not seen them play on high stakes poker, but first saw the first players that I remember seeing that I thought played pretty well, were Antonio and Phil Locke. I thought they were playing better than everybody else. But then I think Patrick and Phil Ivey were another level.
So with guys like Patrick and Phil, and I remember from being in I guess my late teens watching you guys play on Full Tilt, and I was like sweating real heaven. I had a big 17-inch CRT monitor, and I had 4 tables up eating chips late at night, watching you guys play. What was it like for you as a youngster, making your way up the ranks, ultimately playing against people you knew from TV? Because, you know, once you break through at the highest stakes, there's a lot more big names involved.
I think by the time I was playing them online, I don't know, there was something much different about playing them online than playing them in person. It's almost like you're playing a video game and, you know, they're the boss at the end, but they're not real. Like, it's just, you know, oh, now you play against David Benjamin and now you play against Phil Ivey. It didn't feel as real as this. You know, this felt a lot more real and a lot more intimidating, and a lot cooler. So yeah, it didn't impact me too much when I played them online for some reason.
Huh. That's good. I guess that's also kind of what you need in order to step away from any thoughts or emotions. And here we got queens again. Or actually, this is
I think this is the same hand. You just want to point out my fold.
Yeah, point out
times.
your fold here. We'll skip through this one. We've already seen it, so we already know what's happening. On to the next one. See, that's the power of production. We just skip right through that one.
So one thing you may not know. So when I got on high stakes poker, I was set to be just on one day. They do, I don't know how many days of filming in a week or something. And I was an alternate for the day before, which was this day. And with like a few hours left, I got called in and came and sat. And I was so not entertaining that they took away my seat for the next day.
No way.
So I only got to play the few hours instead of a full day.
Oh man, that's brutal. So I mean, okay, you got a set of jacks here. Let's listen in.
Both Ellie and Phil call.
You like your hand?
5 on the turn.
Check.
Phil bets 25,000.
Looks like Ellie might call here if Phil Hellmuth wasn't behind him. But he decides not to play with strangers. His mother taught him well in Israel. Don't play with strangers, Ellie. And Phil Hellmuth is trying to figure out.
Oh, you don't remember this hand either?
Galfond could have got in this hand with ace king or ace queen.
You didn't go crazy with 2 9s, did you?
No, he's not thinking that at all. He's thinking about 2 9s.
Really dead if he had that hand. I don't know anything about the guy. That's my problem.
There you go.
I don't know anything about the guy.
Galfond wins his first pot in high stakes
I
poker.
want to make.
I mean, it's kind of funny that you said that you weren't invited back because you weren't entertaining enough. Did you talk to Tom or anyone else about maybe forcing in some entertainment because it would be good for your image?
No, and it honestly, like, I'm embarrassed to say it didn't occur to me. I just was like going to play poker.
Right.
And, you know, it's high. I mean, these are stakes similar to what I played, but it was still, you know, it was very high stakes. And I was just thinking, all right, I'm going to go and try to make some money, try to play well. And it was definitely not the right approach. But it just didn't occur to me. Still just a baby.
So I mean, I've watched all 7 seasons of High Stakes Poker multiple times, and one thing becomes very clear is that Tom Dwan found some sort of gear, the right gear, to both play well, but also play, crazy enough to be entertaining and to pull off some crazy bluffs. And most of them worked. And that, of course, helped add to sort of the enigma that he became.
Yeah.
Do you think that could have been you? Or were you perhaps never even considering all the things that he was doing?
I don't think it could have been me. Tom was a few years ahead of me in terms of kind of like figuring out the game. And he also, like, yes, he got on there, and I think he made an effort to make it interesting, but also his natural, like his when he played online, it was close to that. And my game was close to this. I was, doing most of my kind of learning from, card runners videos and things like that. And I just, these are the ranges you play. So I was told, and I didn't get, I didn't do anything super creative. I would play kind of straightforwardly, and then I would think my strength was hand reading, and so I would do a good job of deciding when to call or fold, and that was basically it. But I didn't make the super creative bluffs that Tom would make, or just take as many creative lines in general.
So are there regrets in hindsight? Because, of course, the TV persona that Tom became probably brought him a lot of long-term value.
It did. I think, honestly, not really. There have been times in my career when I've had regrets like that, and times when I've had regrets like, I missed out on like the live poker, like semi-private game world, and like Macau, things like that. And then I came to the realization that I'm just not built to be good at those things. And for having good poker skill doesn't mean I should be entitled to succeed at those things. I'm just not good at them. So no, not really any regrets. I had some in the past.
Right. So as far as a style goes, it really is a style and not something that you force. And what you're saying is that Tom also played the way Tom plays because that's just sort of his persona.
Yeah, that's his persona. He also, he's, unlike I went into this game, I was already playing these stakes. I felt confident in my play, but I was really nervous and shy and uncomfortable. And he just went in confident. And that's who he is. It's who I am. And I wasn't going to be, I couldn't, as much as I tried to, I couldn't have been Tom.
Right. Well, that's also the beauty of the contrast between you guys. And to me, the funny part is just that in a way, you're successful at poker because you're really, really good. Tom is successful in poker because he's good, but also because he has a certain element to his personality that gets him into spots that, most of the good players would never get into, right?
Yep. No, Tom is, I'm not as close with him as I was a long time ago, and not as in touch. He's a very busy guy, and so am I. But he was always thinking of every angle. And I would not be at all surprised if that was entirely calculated.
Right.
And just that's where he saw more EV in focusing on, and so that's what he did.
Is Tom one of the most talented player that you've ever talked and played against?
It's interesting because he ended up, like, I think in some games playing poorly, and there were some spots where I was happy to have him in the game at years after this. At this point I was terrified of him, but he definitely has, I don't know how to put it, but he has the most powerful brain of anybody that I talked to. Just like a number of thoughts per second are just off the charts. And he just always is considering so many things that I hadn't. And I think that his confidence can be a strength, can be a weakness. But he never learned from training videos or books or anything. He just thought he could figure it out better, and he was right. But at the same time, later on, I think he would play on some spots where he was an underdog because he's that same confidence. But yeah, he's always been more of an independent thinker, and I kind of followed the rules, so to speak. I learned from the forums and the training videos and things like that, and was not confident enough to just decide on my own what I thought was a better strategy.
I'm about to present you with a list, and I want to just go over it real quickly that has some more names. But before I do that, shout out to everyone in the chat. A lot of people thanking you, Phil, for all the awesome content with regards to the challenges. A lot of run-to-ones questions. We'll get those in towards the end of the show so we can actually combine all those. So if you have run-to-ones questions, please keep those coming as well. I'm keeping track of those. And yeah, lots more people complimenting you on your play over the years. So that is a great thing to see. The list that I'm referring to is a random tweet I made. This is now almost a year ago, about I called it my highly scientific top 10 most talented poker players of all time. And this was purely based on me just being on the scene for a while and watching an absolute crazy amount of poker. But of course, I have never played any stakes that are notable. So I'm just totally guessing here. I put you in the top 5, and this is my list. We'll just run it down real quick. I went Phil Ivey, Stu Unger, Victor Blom, Jungle Man, yourself, Ben Solsky, Mr. Tom Dwan, Chip Reese, Daniel Negreanu, and then I had Fedor Holtz and Texas Dolly, Mr. Doyle Brunson. Of course, this list has been disseminated in various different ways. Every single player has basically chimed in on this. But from your perspective, Phil, you've played against almost everyone on this list over the years, and you've just called Tom Dwan as having the most powerful poker brain. So for the sake of this experiment, we'll skip him. We'll put him at number 1. What are some other players over the years that have impressed you with just sheer talent and an ability to pick up the game very quickly?
Well, not somebody who I saw pick up the game, but I'm most impressed by Doyle Brunson. So I played for many years in a game where called Big Bet Mix. You probably heard of it. That was 12-ish, 13 games, all no limit and pot limit, and it was like games that had not been played elsewhere very often, and it was a pretty tough game by live poker standards. It's usually 500, 1,000 with an ante. Some games were 300, 600 with an ante. And I learned the game at the game. I wasn't there at the start of it, but not too long after. And I think got pretty good. I think there was a stretch where I was the best player in the game, but it was a very tough game. Like I said, like had anyone just jumped in to the lineup, they'd usually be the worst player in the game. And that included like the businessmen that played, which they're like the recreational players were very tough. Anyways, Doyle played a number of times and played very well. And I was thinking, on like the 5th session I played with him, I was thinking like, I don't know how many pros, who are 40 plus could have hung in that game right now. Like outside of, my generation, I'm 36 now. I was like 33 or 34. The pre-online generation, I don't know how many at all could have hung, and he's in his 80s and playing it well. And it just occurred to me then that and I asked him, I said, when you were my age, did you just smash everybody? Were you just that much better than like so much better than everybody else? And he was humble about it. He's like, kind of, but you got to remember that I was the only educated one playing poker. He had a college degree and everybody else did not at all. But yeah, I can't imagine how much better he would have been than the second best player when he was my age. So I put him at the top.
That thought experiment alone is just fantastic. To think about Doyle as a 30-something, just driving some kind of stretched Cadillac to casinos all over the U.S. to just take all the money. Any more people you have thoughts on? Because I know I mentioned Jungle Man. I know you guys played a lot as well. I've interacted with Jungle Man a lot, and I think he's one of the most fascinating people I've ever seen. But he also comes across as someone with just a different brain, if that's the right way to put it.
It is, but I think his intelligence is is an ability to learn. And I mean, that doesn't make him not a talented player. It depends on your definition.
Right.
But I don't think he's somebody who would have, like, if there were zero tools at all, I don't know that he would have been great.
Huh.
I think he needs something to study from, and then he's going to learn really, really well.
Right.
That's my impression, at least. I don't know. It's such a hard list, and you have to define talented, and who knows?
And it's also completely useless. It's just really.
No, it's fun though.
Yeah, it is. It is really fun, and I do like the way you put that about Jungleman, because that is a big difference between talent and an ability to learn. It's the same when you throw someone a ball who's never thrown a ball or caught a ball before. You can see on that first engagement with the ball how they catch it, how they sort of stand, how they react. That's, to me, talent. Like, that's just no information. You're just doing what your body tells you to. That's how I see this. So if you guys want to chime in the chat and light me on fire, or throw some names out there that you believe are much more talented, please do let me know. But yes, I do want to see a Hollywood movie made about the life of Doyle Brunson, and I do want that to be focused heavily on the early days. That would be incredible. Phil Quinn says, did you, Phil, ruin poker by teaching everyone how to play?
No. A lot of people from kind of the newer generation, they have that belief. But I mean, I don't know, 7 training sites existed before I ever made a training video. I wasn't, like, later Run It Once became kind of far and away the biggest, and a lot of the ones that were there before faded into the background. But no, I think I've, contributed to people getting good, but I think that's another thing that I view differently than everybody else, which is, if I'm putting training content out there and some people are watching it, maybe studying it and learning from it, that means that their skills going up relative to other people who, when they're standing still, their skills going down relative, but there's still the same amount of, poker's a zero-sum game. And so I feel like what they're arguing is that the people who didn't learn from the videos somehow, deserve to be the favorite more than the people who did, which I don't think so at all. It's just, these people got better than these people. Before then, these people were better than these people. It's still a zero-sum game.
It's funny because that argument dates back to Doyle Brunson writing Super System, and people basically telling Doyle, you taught everyone how to play. What a stupid decision. But Doyle gave people the confidence to come and play. That's how I see it. They gave them the confidence to come and play, and because of that, poker boomed to begin with. And then, of course, you guys with all the training sites, and I was a Card Runner subscriber, and I watched all those videos, basically took it to a whole new level, which is just very, very different. I do want to say that it's also different for everyone as far as how you absorb information. I would watch those videos for entertainment. I did not pick up a whole lot on it. I just like listening to, guys explain to me how things worked, and I would watch like things that I would never play, like super high stakes heads up, or stuff like that. So it is funny how that works. And as I'm talking right now, the Facebook stream just crashed. So clearly a Facebook issue, not on our end. If you're just tuning in from other places, we are live on YouTube, on Twitch, and on the High Stakes Poker YouTube channel. I'm not going to bother restarting it on Facebook because it's clearly broken in many different ways. There's some question coming in about pot limit, Oma, and I want to throw those your way. Do you think PLO has room to grow? Do you think PLO can ever approach no limit hold'em? And are there ways in which we, as the poker industry, can show the game that would make it more appealing? Because I have to be really honest. If Poker After Dark has a PLO game, it bores me to death. And PLO tournaments, also not very interesting. But maybe I'm missing something. Maybe there's a way. I do like playing PLO. Watching it just doesn't really appeal to me.
I like playing it and watching it in a cash game format. I think the reason it'll never approach No Limit Hold'em is because it's not a good tournament game, and people like to watch tournaments on TV.
Right.
I love to play PLO tournaments, but I don't actually think it's a very good tournament game. I just like them because I'm good at PLO.
Right.
And you know, people play them who aren't. But I think that it's, I don't know how to, the way that equities run and the pot limit nature and just ICM with close running equities, I just think it makes for a bad tournament game. And No Limit Hold'em's a perfect tournament game. And so I think it'll stay king in terms of the masses and televised content.
Yeah. Yeah. Sadly, I think we just have to accept it at this point that, you know, things like mixed games and PLO, they're never going to fly with the big audience. And I'm a mixed game player. It's all sort of all I play when I go out and play cash games. And it is very much fun for me, but for the vast majority, it's that table of weirdos in the corner of the poker room. That's what we are, you know, the weirdos. While, you know, there's 27 people on the list for 1-2, and there's a seat open at our table, and no one's going to come and sit down. It's definitely never going to change. So that's just funny. What do we got going on in the chat here? By the way, let's see if we're missing any of the action here. 7-3 suited. Don't think that's going to go anywhere. What do you remember by the way, pivoting from season 4 when you played and you were told you're not entertaining enough to come back? You did not play on season 5. They kept their word.
Yeah.
And then you're back in season 6. So how did that go?
Honestly, I don't remember. I don't remember how I got back. I guess I must have. Do you know what year this was?
I want to say season 6 was in 09 or 10.
Okay. I guess I had just no, I don't know. Maybe I think I'd won a bracelet at this point in 2008, and I think was just becoming a little bit more known. Still, you know, not hugely so, but at the same time, I think there were players who used to play these stakes that no longer did, and so there were more openings. And kind of the online world in general was getting more recognition, mostly because of Tom Dwan from the masses. And so I think that's why I had an opportunity again, and a lot of online players did as well.
Yeah, it's very interesting how that changed, because I remember back in season 6, my good friend Lex Veldhuis played, Dario Manieri played, you and Tom played, Elke was involved. It was definitely a different time. Peter Eastgate played as well. And I think it also helped, like you said, that guys like Jamie Gold and Sammy Farha weren't up for it anymore. So people, you guys, the fans at home, always remember High Stakes Poker as that show where Sammy and Jamie were always all in. That only lasted for 2 seasons. If you look at the whole grand scheme of that era, season 3 and 4 were the only 2 seasons, or sorry, for season 4 and 5 were the only 2 seasons where that went really nuts. And then it became more so a representation of the industry at that moment in time. And here you see that pivot into having more youngsters in the game. This is also, by the way, a great hand. I just want to turn up the volume and entertain you guys at home, because the table talk that's about to unfold is some of my favorite.
I'll be using this in a minute, I think. Oh.
Yeah.
Just for some context, Mattisau has been all in a few times. He's been crushing the game in this session. He's picking up a lot of big hands, and now it's all in against Negreanu.
Oh, phew. Oh, gosh. It's one of those. I don't see how I can possibly win.
Well, with the amount of money Daniel had in, it was a very good call.
That's the worst hand I could have had.
You're upset I called, Mike?
No, I knew what you had. I thought you had 9s.
Now that I saw your 10s. I mean, you might have had 9 1/2s.
I mean, you have a monster. I mean, I realize it.
Run it twice.
Pretty close.
You want to sell some of it?
Doyle knows Mike's the favorite.
Forget it.
Forget it.
It's always good to win the first one. That'd be nice.
Mike's not the favorite anymore.
Sure is always good to win the first one. Real good to win the first one.
The energy shift in Mike Mattisau's body language from turn to river is all time. But this hand is not over yet.
Daniel's seen it all before.
Ooh, that's a nice one.
Ooh, that is a really, really good card for you.
Was a good
Now
card.
there ain't many clubs left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Only gives
Oh, there's still
Mike
7 of them
6
left.
outs.
I honestly feel like it's coming.
Chop
like,
it out.
genuinely.
Wait,
really?
but it can't be the 6.
6 of them left.
It can't be the 6 of clubs, so there's 6 of them left.
I really think you're going to win it.
I think I might have had the deuce 3 of clubs,
I hope
but I
you're
might
right.
have had the deuce 3 of spades.
I
I'm not
realize
sure.
you do.
Boom! He felt it. He was right. Wow.
Oh my God.
Sorry, I must have been the handful.
I thought you didn't have the deuce 3 of clubs, I guess. Yeah.
Sorry.
It's all right. Well done.
Raises at
I had
5,600.
2 kings twice, 2 aces.
There's so much to unpack here. The fact that Tom says that he thought he had the deuce 3 of clubs, and then Mattisau's claiming that he played the hand so well, even though he just spiked it twice on the river. Oh my God! What was the mood in the room during moments like these?
I mean, it's for these. It's uncomfortable for me, especially at that time. I've learned that just like this is just what they're used to it, and they kind of thrive in these situations. So they're not uncomfortable, but people who are new to it, like me, were uncomfortable.
And Negreanu on Raging Tilt, he did not win a single season of high stakes poker until the last season. Here you are with queens again. Does this ring any bells?
No.
I love that you don't remember this. So we're just experiencing it in real time. What do you think?
Good raise. He's asking me how deep I am.
I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but I never count my chips for anybody.
No, I asked about
I
that.
don't. I'm just saying. I don't.
Thank you.
I don't want to hurt
I
nobody's
call.
feelings, but I never win. This is an excruciatingly unfortunate day for you guys.
Quick pause here. If you guys want to see Mike Mattisau at his worst, this is probably the episode. Because he wins every hand, and he's being a dick about it the whole time. And then he just leaves. He leaves, and people are like, wait, what happened to Mike? And then they just send someone to, or then he comes back to pick up his chips because he cashes out a massive winner. Respect for that. Booking a winner and leaving, no problem with that. But the small things he says, if you want to go back and watch season 6, this is really, really funny.
No, I'm just.
How much are you up, Mike? 350?
Both these players have a lot of money.
My point is, I don't count my chips when somebody asks me.
David might be against an ace-king, ace-queen, but he's going to call. I hope to get a good flop.
Don't put him in.
And there it is.
Find another gear here pretty quick.
So because a lot of these hands go multi-way and people really don't like folding, do you have to be more sticky with a hand like queens, like in a spot like this?
Well, I don't think so. No, I think people are playing a lot of like so many ace X combos that, I mean, I don't know if I'm just supposed to see bet my full range here, but I don't think so. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is even a bad bet. But I think it's fine to bet and then check it down from there. Try to get called by, Jack 10 suited, and then not put any more money into the pot.
Question coming in on YouTube. Is this live? Yes, we are live. Oxford U, I see your question. If you have any more, please keep sending them in. We'd love to see it. What do you think about Benjamin check raise here? Is that just him purely going on the idea that ace queen and ace king are a strong part of your range?
I think it is. He also, if I have a hand like queens, he knows that I just stop putting money in soon anyways. I do think he probably should call this hand. I don't know exactly how deep we are, but he's just blocking a lot of stuff. And I do have some, like a lot of, especially at that time, like random ace X, more than I should. And I guess by raising, maybe he gets in more, but I think he gets in more by calling and, the gut shots miss and all that.
Do you think that it would have cost you more if you had ace-x? Is it impossible to fold ace-x there?
Not impossible, no. I was pretty sticky as a player at the time, so I probably wouldn't have. But it's definitely possible to.
Question coming in hot here. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, maybe good. Probably good too.
Right.
I don't
know. Question coming in hot here from Anthethics. Wow. Please make your name harder to say in the future. Can you please ask Phil if he will be on the next season of High Stakes Poker? And I'll add to that, would you want to be?
Man, I'd love to be on PLO. I would, yeah, I probably would. Anyways, I need to learn how to play No Limit, but the games aren't crazy tough, and it would be fun. So I think I would like to be, but I have not been asked to be. I don't even know when it is. I know they just finished. I mean, they filmed a while ago, or a couple months ago, or a few months ago.
Yeah, for
and they're releasing those.
Right. For all those that are wondering and that are maybe new to this show, a new season of High Stakes Poker has been released on PokerGo. Use the promo code HSP to take $20 off the annual sub for PokerGo in case you're new to our service. Also, the season finale of Season 8 just aired last Wednesday, and we are taping a new 9th season of High Stakes Poker this summer. I want to say it's somewhere June or July. I'm not entirely sure, but I do know that it's going to blow this previous season out of the water. We're going to tape more days. We're going to do a whole bunch of cool stuff. And that is something that you definitely can't miss. And, you know, Phil, I'll pass your name on to Brent Hanks, who is making the lineups with Maury Eskandani. And I'll try to see if we can get you in the game because, you know, we need a no-limit fish at some point.
We do. Yeah, they'll be happy to have me, the players, I'm sure.
It is funny how the game can evolve in such a way that you can be the best player at the table, but also the worst player at the table, and that can be happening, you know, within the matter of days, depending on what the lineup looks like.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of high stakes poker because the games are never super tough, but there's always some tough players. But there's no guarantees those are going to win. We saw some people get absolutely demolished this season on the show that are regarded as some of the best, and that's the beauty of small sample size televised cash games. Like anything can happen. It's part of the reason why I love watching it so much. And by the way, you guys in the chat, do let me know how much you enjoyed the latest season. Who were your favorite players? Who do you want to see in season 9? We are taking suggestions and we are keeping notes. Troy is wondering, Phil, why did you switch from No Limit Hold'em to PLO as your main game? Was there a moment in time where you just decided it's my time, I'm going to move over?
I learned it because a lot of the nosebleed action on Full Tilt at the time had moved over to PLO. It was hard to find no limit action except for heads up for a while. Like it was rare that the 6-max games ran for a little while, and there were games running all the time at high stakes PLO. And so I decided to learn for that reason. And I played both for a while, and somewhere I think that no limit at high stakes died further. And then at some point I was just playing PLO. And by the time no limit was running again, I didn't believe that I was very good anymore, and never really tried it again.
Let's see if you can get some bravery here going against Negreanu.
I hope I don't.
Phil Galfond might be putting Daniel on a hand like Elke had, the nut flush draw, trying to buy the pot right there. After all, Daniel can't have too much. He slammed the chips down when that 6 hit the turn.
Yeah, I mean, calling the turn makes sense with the gut shot as well.
Daniel bets 80,200 in the continued theory of strength.
I thought you were going to give up on the river.
Hoping that by betting strong, Galfond will interpret it as weakness. Oh my God, Clay Aiken went for it.
My favorite hand.
Nice hand. I think it's a bad call.
Yeah.
I was stationed at the time, but just when 4 people see the flop and not much money goes in, I just have a 10 a lot. So I think I was in my call happy phase, which actually has been most of my career and still exists. But
the beauty of this whole thing is this experience of watching this again with you is that an $80,000 missed call doesn't even register. It doesn't even, it's not even in the bank of hands. I had Brent Kenny on the show who was remembering level 1 hands from the Trident event that he won. Like he was going over it in depth. Like he was remembering every single hand that he played. Are you just not that type of person? Have you played too many hands to where remembering any of them is just taking up too much brain capacity? Or are there other spots that, still haunt you to this day?
there may be a handful of spots that still haunt me, but mostly I forget about hands after, a week or two.
That's actually really funny. Because to me, stuff like this would stick, but that's also because I can't afford to play this game. All right, keep the questions coming in the chat. I do appreciate it. There's a lot more questions. We'll try to get through as many as possible here in the broadcast. You're watching Season 6 of High Stakes Poker. Season 7 is about to come as well. We cut together a nice little highlight reel here of all the hands Phil was involved in over the years during the taping of High Stakes Poker. If you guys want to watch the whole old archive, we have all of that available on PokerGO, all 7 seasons in high quality. So that's a good place for you guys to go if you are a true poker fan like myself. And we have tons of highlights on our PokerGO YouTube channel as well. We have top 5s per season. We have all sorts of highlights. We have released all the Phil Galfond moments this past Wednesday on our YouTube channel as well. So we have tons of content for you guys to go through if you are a true poker fan. And we're excited to have live poker back later this year. We're planning lots of stuff. PokerGO is not going anywhere. We are doing tons of big tournaments, and we're excited to have that for you guys on the broadcast. Let's see what we got here in our chat as we are watching Brunson take one down versus Negreanu. Negreanu, of course, doesn't win unless Phil tries to hero call him. Chad is asking, he says, Isildur has to be one of the most talented, naturally talented players in the world, right? Going back to our conversation about poker talent. He's probably an interesting player to discuss for a little bit here. How do you look at him?
Yeah, he definitely is. Another person I'm not super in touch with these days, but I knew him not super well, but I kind of knew him. And yeah, he, like Tom, was just self-taught, and then got to the highest stakes. Then when he couldn't find action, he went and played limit games and the highest stakes and held his own. Like he's extremely talented. I've always felt he was really, really talented. And another person who, well, not another, I don't, because Tom can still play well and does well. Isildur can still play well, but I know that he lost a lot by playing games he shouldn't have played in, and at stakes he shouldn't have played. And I do remember this hand only because I've seen it since a number of times.
So walk us through the whole scenario here.
Yeah, so I think I just 3-bet a terrible hand to 3-bet, and I did a lot of that. I was pretty loose pre-flop at this point in my career, and I got 4-bet, and he made it. I mean, his sizing's actually pretty normal, but I felt like I had good odds, and I liked peeling in position and just trying to take it away. Am I out of position? It's really bad. I mean, it's really bad either way, but it's not even defensible given what I thought at the time.
No, you're in position because I think Ellie is in the small blind, and I think you're in the cutoff.
I mean, it's still a terrible call, but I kind of at that point in my career just felt like, I don't know, you get in there with any two, like reasonable cards, and maybe he has queens, maybe he has ace queen. I have the overcard, and I have position, and I have a lot of confidence in my post flop ability, which don't know why I did, given what I've seen so far.
Well, was it perhaps a sense of confidence coming from your experience as an online player, wanting to battle on later streets because you knew that you had more experience there specifically?
Yeah, that's what it was for sure. And I would do the same thing in tournaments where I would just play hands that I shouldn't in position, especially, but like call 3-bets with stuff that I shouldn't, because those people are used to playing short stack poker, and I played a lot of deep stack poker and across multiple streets, and that was kind of my strength.
So, as someone who has played poker for a long time, but never played on a high level, whenever I would do something like that, it would always get me into trouble. I would call down too much, or I would misvalue my middle pair and basically be too scared to call down. How do you quantify or explain where your skill and experience comes out and shines to the point where you can do stuff like that in a profitable way?
Honestly, I think you usually can't. I think that justification for putting in money with a bad hand is usually wrong, because you just end up folding the flop a lot, or like you said, end up calling down with a mediocre hand, and maybe they have 2 overcards and you've made 2 good calls and they've still had 6 outs per street, and the polarized range. I don't know. I do think I do think I made a lot of mistakes because of overconfidence in post flop play.
So tight is right is the takeaway, basically.
Yeah.
Here you're faced with a $110,000 bet from Ellie, and you give it up.
Phil makes the right decision. It's a good lay down.
You lay it
I
down.
made a good fold there because I just really believed he had a good hand pre-flop, and I was, he's not going to bet. I didn't think he would bluff jacks or tens. I thought that, I'm up against aces, sometimes queens or kings a lot. And the times that he would have ace king, I think actually, I remember thinking there was a reason that I didn't think he had ace king. And I think it had to do with, I think it was his flop sizing. I thought he would bet bigger with ace king. So I thought kings and queens both made a lot of sense. And aces maybe kind of did.
It's funny how folding top pair can be talked about as a good fold, even though all the decisions that led to that point weren't that great.
Yeah.
It's the beauty of poker. It's like when you're talking hand histories with your friends, and he's like, "Yeah, so on the turn, what should I do?" I'm like, "Well, you should have folded before the flop."
Talk about pre-flop. Speaking of, here I am with 8-7 off.
8-7 off can make it straight. So let's look at the positives.
There was another possibility. You could have slow played aces or kings there.
That's exactly.
We know I'm not folding middle pair after we got to the flop with 8-7 off.
I mean, it's great that you're able to sort of pinpoint it and describe like that this was part of your style. Like it wasn't you trying to go crazy. It was just like, this is what I do. This is how I play.
Yeah, it honestly wasn't. Even after, I guess I didn't want to play super tight, but I wasn't faking the way that I played. This was how I played, and a lot of it was not exactly how I'd play online, but it was how I would unfortunate run out, but how I would play when I thought I had a big post flop edge, which I did.
Going back to the turn here on this hand, you are.
I'm out of position.
Out of position, right? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I just that was my fault. I think I just accidentally scrolled ahead. Here we go. Back to the hand. You check the turn, which obviously makes sense because Daniel has betting lead there, so bleeding probably doesn't ever make sense. When this turn comes down and Daniel bets again, if he had done that, are you still just calling? Or are you? Is that
if you bet pretty small, I would be likely to raise, thinking that he was making like a kind of showdown in value bet, but usually just call against a big bet.
Phil gets away from it.
Look at this fold.
Did you? Oh. Good fold. Thank you.
How do we get to a fold there?
Well, when I check call king 8-3, I probably have a pair, and 2 out of the 3 pairs made a full house, and the other pair I would bluff with probably, unless it's like ace-3, which it could be. And I just didn't think he would bluff that run out like almost ever. And if he's not bluffing, then he has a king. So I just, thought he was under bluffing and his value range was a king. So.
basically the counter opposite would happen to Tom Dwan. You're out here making hero folds, looking cool to the 2+2 fans, but everybody else is thinking like, oh, this guy's never invited to our game. He makes way too many good folds. On the contrary, on this same season, Tom Dwan's all in with a Paris, or was it King High against Ivy, who had Ace-6. Yeah, bit of a different approach.
Funny, I remember other people's hands. I guess because I've seen them since.
Yeah, those of course have been replayed into eternity. Random questions coming in on YouTube that I did not even see coming about Bitcoin and crypto. How, of course, that slowly started becoming a thing. 2010, 11, 12. Growing, so on and so forth. Do you think a lot of poker players got into that at the right time? That's the question that's coming in. And from your perspective, did you see that blow up in the way that it did?
I think a lot of poker players got in large part because like the utility of Bitcoin is so obvious to poker players, and like a lot of people just used it to play poker, to deposit on certain sites or to trade money. And so you kind of were not forced into it, but you just ended up having some by doing your own business, not necessarily because you wanted to be an investor or you believed in it. I didn't see it coming. I didn't really pay much attention to it at any point until everybody was paying attention to it.
Yeah, everybody has their own Bitcoin bad beat stories. Those are the most expensive bad beat stories.
Yeah, I have several.
You have several? At least give us one. Give us one to make us feel better.
Well, no, it was just that I had played some poker with a crossbook, and it was not that long ago. I want to say, I don't know, Bitcoin was like 8K. 9K, something like, last year at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And I lost, well, we hadn't discussed, like when we were discussing how to pay, there were several options, and I was just like, I guess Bitcoin's easiest. So paid. And it was probably half my Bitcoin at the time. And like, I didn't think much of it because I don't know, I was always moving money around in different places. But then obviously, yeah, it's whatever, 7x since then. And had I and also I ran pretty bad to lose, I thought. So it was like run bad, but then the stakes were whatever, 8x higher than I thought than I 8x higher now than I meant to play. So.
Your biggest losing session basically retrospectively, which is funny,
right?
Because
exactly
the same thing happened to me. I ran up a few Bitcoin on Seals with Clubs, and I was gifted one Bitcoin. I ran it up to, I want to say 8 or 9, and I just gave it all back, lost it all, didn't think anything about it.
Yeah.
And now when you look back on it, you're like, what did I do? Oh my God. But of course, hindsight 2020, it's super easy to say that. The worst bad beat story of Bitcoin that I know of is a very, very close friend of mine who had a serious number of Bitcoin on the Atlanta Falcons to win the Super Bowl in the game against the Patriots that they 28-3. Let's just say that that's one of the craziest ones that I know of. But yeah, wow, Bitcoin bad beat stories. We all have some. Nathaniel says fold pre LOL 2+2. The fold pre is always one of my favorite poker memes of all time. What do we got here? Queen 10 making it 14K. Mr. Locke making the call after Bill Klein also called. We're going 3-way. Here you're coming out with the glasses.
Yeah.
Different look. Got the hoodie on.
Eyesight getting a little worse. I was still pretty loose at this point. This is the only season that I felt like I played kind of well on.
I'll go as far as to say that the sessions that you were on, you were in command of the table. Of course, you also made Bill Klein look like the best bluffer of all time, but we'll get to that hand. But it's just really funny how your table persona and the way you play changed from season to season. You can really tell. It was really noticeable.
Yeah. I remember feeling a lot different this season than previous. Well, yeah, every season compared to previous ones.
Shout out also to Doyle Brunson wearing a leather jacket on TV. That's just perfect. So in this hand, we all know Phil Lock's giant nit. Is that going through your mind?
I didn't really have that read on him at the time. I thought he played I thought he played pretty well. But I mean, everybody was a nit compared to how we were playing online. So, I mean, like, this is, you know, no pair, no draw, no blockers to speak of. I'm just, I think that I felt like he would have a hard time calling without a set or two pair or straight, and he wasn't playing those hands pre-flop, except for, like, he would play some sets this way, but he'd probably raise the flop, and there are not a lot of them combo wise. So I just thought I could make him fold one pair a lot. But obviously, like, my hand selection is not very good.
I'm just weirded out by this hand because what in your range crushes him to a point where he can fold queens on that in that spot there? Like, it seems too face up for him to like let go of an overpair that easily.
Well, I just think my value range there, he's dead against, or near dead, you know. And he should also think that my bluffing range has some outs, which in this case it did not. But yeah, I think those boards where people are just completely dead against, like, where it's obvious you're not making like a protection bet with something they beat, and then they're the hands that, and like, I think those boards seem like, this is of course back in the day, but they seem like boards you're gonna end up, I don't remember this, looks like a good run out so far. They seem like boards that your opponent's gonna keep betting on, that I was gonna keep betting on, whether I had it or didn't.
In this hand, you say you don't remember. So what? Hold on, let me just quickly pause it. What do you hope past Galfond does here?
So I think he check called and led the turn. I hope I call. I mean, he's saying that he has a flush, and he probably either has a flush or a relative, like a jack nine with a diamond. And if he has, well, I have the jack of diamonds, but if he has that, I want to let him keep betting. And if he has a flush, I want to let him keep betting. And like, by raising, I'm saying I have a flush or a bluff. And by calling, I just have so many, you know, queen, jack of spades, like stuff that doesn't believe in ace, jack.
What do you think your thought process was to raise there?
Maybe I wanted to get more money in before the board paired or another diamond came. But I think it's not great logic. There's the board pair. And I hope I value bet. Obviously, my hand technically got worse, but he's not check call leading a hand that makes a boat. And so I can't really get raised. Well, I can, but I don't expect to get raised either.
Pair did not scare Galfond. He bets 54,000.
Doyle looks spry and sharp. Like, I mean, I know he calls and loses here, but
no, I mean, like I said at the top, I think he's the greatest of all time, most talented player, for sure.
Is 80-year-old Phil Galfond still going to be mixing it up?
I hope so. I don't know. I wonder what poker's going to be like. The reason I have my doubts is because I strongly prefer online poker to live poker. And man, when you're 80, it's going to be hard to hang at an online poker. They'll be playing. I mean, I don't know what the kids will be doing at that point. Virtual reality. Who knows?
All right, this hand. Walk us through it.
All right. I'm gonna guess that.
You know what? We're just gonna go back to the start. Let's get this right. All right, you win this hand against Doyle. All right, here we go. Let's set the scene. It's a straddle from Bill Klein. You make it 3,500 with queen 10 off, which is interesting. Is that the double straddle or was that just a small raise?
Small raise.
And then
I wonder why. I should have gone bigger.
Should have gone bigger? Okay. Take it away.
All right. So Robert Croak, I believe, right?
Yeah.
And Bill Klein. Both call.
So they are both in the blinds, I guess?
Yeah. The big blind and straddle. So effectively.
Right.
Blinds, Croak leads out. I thought this was like a 10-9 or something. It's stronger than I thought, but it's rarely. Well, I didn't think it was a bluff, but I thought it was a weak made hand. And now, Bill Klein, who I think I'd played with Croak before, but not Klein. I've definitely not played with Klein before. I didn't know anything about him, and here's an older gentleman raising the flop. So I think he has Jack 9 or 9s, or I think he has a set very often. And so I'm like, wow, I have a lot of implied odds if I can make my hand. Obviously, some of my outs are a little tainted though, but still, like, it's a good price. And if this unknown older gentleman always has a big hand, then my implied odds should be pretty good. Gin on the turn.
How do you feel about Bill Klein continuing here?
I think it's good. I mean, he has the gut shot and the flush draw and like a pretty uncomfortable type of hand to check call, reasonable size bet with. This is all I'm talking about kind of, well, I don't play No Limit anymore, so I'm still in the same state that I was back then in terms of skill level. These are not the thoughts that top players would talk about these days. But I like his play. If he's going to continue bluffing with some hands, this is kind of the perfect hand for it. He can make me fold like ace 3 of spades too. Maybe not. No, not that sizing, but I go for the small raise. I think I should have raised larger. There's a very good chance, I don't remember this, but like I still, even though I was more comfortable and I played a little more live poker, I was still pretty bad. There's a reasonable chance that I miscounted, like, and felt like pressure to hurry up.
Right.
So maybe I could have easily meant to put like 87 out and just put 67. But I'm not sure.
But 87 would have been a better sizing here in hindsight?
Yeah, I think so. If it has to end in a 7. But yeah, 80 to 90.
Right. Did Bill take a very long time? Because I know this is a edited show.
Yeah, I guess he must have. I don't recall, honestly. So I mean, here I've put him on a big hand on the flop. He bet calls the turn. He's got to have something. And so now before he does anything, I think he has a full house.
Right.
And I'm like positive that he has a full house by the time he bets, because if he somehow has like king 9 or something, he's not going to bluff with it. So I have already decided to fold in my mind here. I just knew I was beat.
150. How much time left?
Because also, a lot of the players who would raise flop, bet call turn with a flush draw would not bluff the river. Like a lot of them would just check, they'd miss, and they think, oh well, I check. So I was like 98% sure that I was there.
All right, man.
Antonio, before even you are halfway through it, if you were bluffing, this would be a good time to show. Bill knew that. Bill knew the ropes. He was like, all right, this is a nice time to show.
I know. Fold it around.
I mean, as a fan of the game yourself, you can only just smile and respect that, right?
Yeah, it was a great bet. That like I said, I would have folded anything, basically. I mean, I did. I guess that's the best hand that I'd have there, or that I'd fold there. But yeah, I just could not have been more sure in a poker hand that I was beat. That was wrong.
Total gangster move by Bill Klein.
Yeah.
One of the OG bluffs of the entire taping of 7 Seasons of High Stakes Poker. I'm sorry you were on the losing end of that, Phil, but
no, it's I mean, when I saw the hand at the time even, but I was just like, respect. That was
to make some money back. You're getting involved with the 9-4 suited. I'm appreciating this.
Yep. Loved suited hands, loved position.
By the way, I think season 7 of High Stakes Poker it was first, when it first came out, it was sort of like a disappointment because it was Norm Macdonald and it wasn't Gabe, and there were some characters on there that people didn't really identify with. I think season 7 is underrated. There are some insane hands on this season of the show. Johnny Chan and Mr. Rolex are involved in quite a few of them. It's highly worth a rewatch. Absolutely. Do you remember you going up against Mr. Chan here?
I do. It's weird actually. I have like I don't remember the action, but I remember being in this hand with him. Like I can picture it.
It's funny because I think Johnny Chan is such an elusive character, having watched his main event wins from the 80s and having, he won his 10th bracelet in 2005. Never been able to pin down his game or understand how he does it. But, for me, it just seems to be very much live read based because he does so many unconventional, strange things at the table.
He's a player who's impressed me. I haven't played a lot with him, but have played some, like a decent amount.
Is that a correct assessment on my part that his style is very different?
Yeah, he's hard to figure out, and this hand's actually a great illustration of it, where he just applies a lot of pressure in spots where, so like it feels like he's doing a lot, but then I just always see the hand, so I don't know. but he does bluff for sure, and what impressed me about him is I've played with him in a lot of different games, and including PLO, which I've always felt like was my best game, and I've had a lot of confidence in. He plays PLO well. He plays all the games well.
Wow, that's really surprising to hear. I've never interviewed Johnny Chan, probably one of the few players I've never talked to. Would love to get an insight into his mind because he just seems to be on a different sort of level. And I could never interpret it whether he's very good or very bad. And those two things seem to be closer to each other than whatever's in the middle.
I expect I called here. I think I should.
You do?
Yeah. And I wasn't expecting to see that. And so I was thinking, he doesn't have ace king pre-flop. I don't think that he's going to play king queen or king jack this way. So he doesn't have kings. So nines. Now there's one fewer combo of sixes. King nine. I think I like my call.
We're getting towards the end of the show here. If you guys want to get your final questions in for Phil, please do so now. We're going to do some quick hitters here. 9-4 suited under the gun? Question mark? Yeah, exactly. Oh man, amazing. I really appreciate that. People are loving the show. I appreciate that. If you love the show, please smash the like button. That's all I ask for. It's the only currency I accept for doing this show. This show, by the way, is every week on Thursday, sometimes on Friday, to make sure that people can look after their children, because it's very important as well that people have babysitters at home, Phil Galfond being one of them. And then I'm having a lot of big names on the show in the next couple of weeks. We have guys like Sam Trickett and Timothy Adams locked in. I have an old school name locked in that I just want to say so badly, but it's kind of too cool, and I'll tell Phil after the show, and he'll be like, "Oh, that's really cool." So I'm gonna keep teasing that to people. So yeah, always keep tuning in to the Run It Back shows. You have a set. I know you folded it straight, but set's pretty good hand too.
Let's see if they can make me fold this one. I don't like my pre-flop call. I think I was I was a little too loose, or a lot too loose back then, and also knew that Klein was a recreational player. But I mean, he'd already owned me. So And I decided to lead, I think because Klein was a 3-better, and if he had missed overcards, I didn't want it to go check, 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 and miss my opportunity to put money in against Daniel, as well as Klein.
And Klein, of course, Klein's a battler. He loves the battle, and it must also help you that you have just folded against him showing a bluff, right?
Yeah.
Like, what's going through your mind in a spot like this, or what do you think would have been, in case you don't remember? Because to me,
it looks like I only have like pot and a half, or like 110K or something. So I'm trying to think. I think I believe he 3-bet and he called the flop. So I think he has a draw or an overpair. And I don't know. I wouldn't have been surprised if I'm right about my stack. I wouldn't have been surprised if I just jammed for, 110, hoping to get hero called. Because obviously I have a loose image. I've been playing a lot of pots and putting a lot of money in. I guess I was just so not, because I felt like because I felt like he had an overpair very often. He's got 2 outs. I'm not really worried about protection at all. And so I want to keep him in.
Right. Is this any concern?
Yeah, but not enough, I think, to not shove. I think, I have so many perceived miss draw. I mean, I do have a lot of missed gut shots and stuff. I was deeper than I thought.
Yeah. I was going to say, you had basically 200 behind on the turn. You bet 60. And now we're all in for 134.
Klein talking to himself.
Don't be nervous. It's going to charity one way or the other, right?
What a legend.
You don't have to move it in. You don't have to move it in. God, I can't tell if you're just trying to get back at me because you really don't like me that much, or oh, you really got me.
He's really suspicious of a bluff.
He has a actually reasonable hero calling hand. But
because the 6s block some of your range?
Yeah, I mean, I guess actually I did cold call 3-bet, so maybe it doesn't block too many straights, but some flushes perhaps.
King 5, a hand you're married to?
Yeah. I guess my favorite hand. Didn't know.
Little scoot back.
Oh, I think
this is the hand we already saw. Yeah.
Yeah, we're back.
We're back to square one. So I'm just gonna leave it here on the hand that you won against Mr. Bill Klein. And take a few final questions here from the chat. A few quick hitters. Chris Owen says, new mixed games such as Drama Hub, Badesi, Badusi, Archie. Thoughts, Phil? Do you play, or is it a waste to even bother?
I don't. I mean, I've played them all a little bit because I've kind of been forced to in mixed games. But I think it totally depends on the availability of games to you. And those are games that, at least the ones that I've played, they tend to be kind of lower edge games, which are nice for mixed. Like, people enjoy that, and games that involve those type of lower edge games end up being kind of softer on average. So it really depends on, it depends on what options are available to you. I think it's rare that you'll find one of those games solo as a great place to make money, but I could be wrong about that.
We have high stakes duel coming up to PokerGO March 31st at 8 p.m. Eastern time, exclusively on PokerGO. Phil Hellmuth versus Daniel Negreanu. It's a 100K match. The loser can challenge the winner up to 2 times, so we can ultimately see, a 200K match or 400K match. Phil, give me your thoughts on this match. What do you think is likely to happen, and then who's the favorite in your mind?
Well, I could tell you that I put a bet down on Phil at I got 1.5 to 1. So
for just this first match.
Yeah. So I think Daniel's probably a favorite, almost surely a favorite, but I don't think a very, very big one. Partially because of the nature of, the nature of just like the format. It is a nice structure for what it for a heads up sit and go, but it's still at the end of the day a heads up sit and go, and it's played live, so you don't get as many hands in. They like to talk, so you don't get as many hands in. And I also think that I respect Phil's game more than a lot of my peers, or maybe all of my peers. I think he's talented, and it's in a way, Daniel's gotten very strong at heads up no limit, but getting stronger theoretically, like it remains to be seen. Not saying that he won't do a good job of it, but it remains to be seen how he applies his newfound knowledge to the way that Phil plays, because he's not going to be playing against the same strategies and sizes and things like that he's used to, having played against Doug. It's going to be completely different. So did he prepare specifically for Phil? I'm sure he did somewhat, but all the knowledge that he gained during his match with Doug, I don't think it all applies super well to this match against Phil. And yeah, it can be applied in some ways, but we'll see.
I'm just happy to hear that you are backing Phil Hellmuth for this match, because so many people that I've spoken to since, and on the No Gamble, No Future YouTube channel, we've had lots of previews from people like Maria Ho and Brian Rast, Brad Owen, a whole bunch of people. They are all going with Negreanu, which is cool, because you picking Hellmuth is such a stray off into the wild compared to that, and you're really lauding him for his skill. Where do you think Hellmuth's skill lies in that sense? Because people love to stomp on his play so often.
I think he's excellent at reading players. I think a lot of it probably comes down to live tells, but also I think he clearly uses live tells plus logic very well. And I think that his, could he improve if he studied kind of modern poker more? Yes, absolutely. But I think he does. Since seeing him in the duel against Antonio, that was really where my view of him actually changed quite a bit. And it's because, every play that I saw him make, I could see the thought process, even though it was not necessarily the way that I would play the hand. It kind of, I saw him playing in very smart ways. Like what he came up with, not GTO, not what I would do, but I could tell what his reasons were, and his reasons were smart.
Right. So. That's interesting. Alex Stein, I just want to give this shout out, says, Phil, congrats on everything. Just remember who beat you on New Year's Eve 2003 in Friedenberg's basement playing in Cincinnati.
How's it going, Alex? I won't forget.
Never forget. All right, we have reached the end of the show. Phil, thank you so much for making time to be on the show. I hope it did not bring too many bad memories, reliving some of these high-stakes poker moments.
No, it was fun. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it as always. For you guys at home, one more time, if you're new to PokerGO, please use the promo code HSP to take $20 off the annual sub. If you like our merch, we have high stakes poker hats. We have, I think we have t-shirts, stickers, hoodies, all sorts of good stuff. PokerGoshop.com. Use promo code REMKO to take 10% off the annual, or sorry, not annual sub, your total purchase. So if you want to buy some cool merch, please go and do so. Phil, what are you working on? Is there a new challenge about to get underway? Are you taking all comers still? And what is happening with Run It Once?
Yeah, I've been spending time on Run It Once and with the family, because I haven't had a challenge. I'm staying in Vegas for a little while, and I don't want to play on any unregulated sites. So yeah, I'm still taking on anybody at PLO if they want to come challenge me on WSOP.com. A lot of the players who would be happy to play against me are over in Europe, so I don't expect anybody to take me up on it now that nobody has, but I hope somebody does, because I do want to play. I'd love to play a half or no limit challenge if it seemed fair. But I think so far the people who want to play me are just the world's top players, and I'm not going to take a few months and be able to beat them.
And as far as round of ones, do you guys have anything in the works this year? Any I know you guys are very by the book, which I highly respect. I also stay away from all those unregulated sites. I advise you guys at home to do so as well, because by staying away from those sites, you are then supporting the ones that do play by the rules. What are you guys working on this year?
So for Run of One's Poker, it's like basically two big things that we're working on all year: MTT and MTTs and mobile. Because they're both hugely important, obviously. And in the past, we have a lot of like smaller releases, and we'll still have updates with some smaller things. But it's really just been those two things. It's been fun to work on kind of designs of MTTs, lobbies, and things like that. And Run of One's training has been doing a lot. We released pads on pads MTT course that's been really popular. Patrick Leonard is an excellent player. We have another, what day is it? We have another course coming soon. I think next week, or I know next week. And more on the way. So yeah, the training content keeps coming out, and it's been great.
All right, you guys at home, check it out. Run of One's Poker, if you are in a market that offers it, and Run of One's training for everyone all over the world. And even if you're in outer space, you can probably still get that in some kind of way. For now, my name is Remko Rinkema. His name is Phil Galfond. Thank you guys all so much for watching. This was Run It Back. Come back again next week, Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern. I'll be back with a new show. And until then, please play good poker for all you guys at home. Phil, thanks again. And I'm sure we'll catch up again soon.
Yeah, thank you.